The Revelation Explained by F. G. Smith. Chapter 8, Part 4. We begin with the Book of Revelation, Chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. We continue now with the commentary. The description given of this star is similar to that of a large burning meteor, such as we frequently see shooting athwart the heavens. It fell rapidly to earth, as such meteors often do, and struck the fountain heads of the rivers, imparting to them such a poisonous quality as caused the death of those who drank the waters. This symbol is also drawn from the natural world, and hence we must look for its fulfillment in political events. The rapidity of its fall and disappearance in the waters would direct us to an agent who would appear suddenly and soon disappear, and whose career would leave bitter results. The direct effects of this meteor were experienced by the rivers and the fountains of waters, which bear an analogous relation to the sea that bordering tribes and nations do to an empire. The heart of the empire, or the sea, was directly affected by the burning mountain under the preceding trumpet, while the tributaries of the sea, or the bordering tribes, are made the subject of direct attack under this symbol, and the poisonous qualities of their waters carried to far distant points. Under this striking symbol, we have a description of the third important step in the downward course of Rome, the short but eventful career of Attila, with his terrible Scythians, or Huns. Singularly, Attila was said to, quote, possess the iron sword of the war god Mars, end quote, and he claimed for himself the designation or title, quote, the Scourge of God, end quote, while his followers were even more cruel and barbarous, if possible, than the Goths and the Vandals. Coming from the remote solitudes of Asia, under the leadership of their fierce king, they poured like a tornado, first upon the inhabitants of the Eastern Empire in 442 and 445, and then turned their attention westward. Attila ruled over, quote, nearly all the tribes north of the Danube and the Black Sea, end quote. And under his banner fought Ostrogoths, Gepidae, Alani, Heruli, and many other Teutonic peoples. Says Gibbon, quote, the whole breadth of Europe, as it extends above 500 miles from the Euxine to the Adriatic, was at once invaded and occupied and desolated by the myriads of barbarians whom Attila led into the field, end quote. It was the boast of Attila that the grass never grew on the spot which his horse had trod. In 451, he led his forces, 700,000 strong, through the center of Germany into the heart of Gaul, where he was met at Chalons by the combined forces of the Visigoths, Alans, Franks, and Romans, and was defeated, with the loss of 170,000 of his men. This was one of the most gigantic as well as one of the most important battles of history. A rivulet flowing through the field of battle is said to have been colored and swollen by the blood of the slain. The next year, however, with a great force at his command, he fell with headlong fury upon northern Italy, but he did not attack Rome. Suddenly and seemingly without cause, he withdrew his army, and this peculiar action of his has been the wonder of historians ever since. Says the Encyclopedia Britannica, quote, Attila at once withdrew from Italy, but the motive which led him to act thus is not known, end quote. According to the prophecy, he was to fall upon the rivers and fountains of water only. A short time later, in 453, he died, and, quote, the vast empire over which he had ruled broke up immediately after his death, no one chief being powerful enough to seize the supremacy, end quote. Thus, his short but wonderful career of about 12 years ended suddenly, like a meteor falling into the river. But the effects of this invasion were far-reaching. Rome, in her declining strength, being unable to cope with these immense hordes of barbarians, was forced to call to her assistance the half-civilized tribes of Gothic barbarians against a more dreaded foe. The success that attended these conflicts of the combined forces were the means of giving greater political importance to these Gothic tribes and securing their independence. But while they rose, Rome fell. By the very act of employing such weapons in defense, Rome robbed herself of the little political strength remaining, and she was obliged to accept the bitter consequences. Under each of these first 3 trumpets, the extent of destruction is indicated by the expression, the third part. Since the successive steps in the downfall of the empire is the subject under consideration, this expression, as here applied, doubtless has particular reference to the loss of political power and life, rather than referring directly to the loss of human life sustained. With this thought in view, it is evident that the political importance of the empire was entirely destroyed by these desolating incursions. Of the truth of this fact, all historians agree. Nothing of Rome remained, except the semblance of a government, when the time arrived for the sounding of the next trumpet. This ends chapter 8, part 4.